And we're live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Niki Lopez of Niki Lopez Creative, and you're watching The Circle, where every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m., I'm sharing stories of the creative community, social activists, social entrepreneurs, people doing great things in the world today. And today I have a very special guest and friend, Ebonni Chrispin, who is the founder of Idea Inc. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Yes. So I got a couple of messages. I had a little snag in the beginning, but we're back online and welcome. So the Idea Inc. is, from what I know of it, is an idea management, event programming. How do you describe your company, the Idea Inc.?
So that's a good question. I was actually just sharing it on my page so that folks can know a little bit more about the work that you're doing. Let me just send that. Okay. That's a good question. So I think one of the reasons I started the business was because I thought that I found that people like yourself, creatives, social entrepreneurs, nonprofit executives, people that want to make the world a better place, they're really good at doing certain things except running a business.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do well with operationalizing things. They hire the wrong people. They tend to procrastinate with the things that need to get done. And I am very organized, structured, some would say militant even. And my background is in organizational communication and marketing. It's what my degree is in. It's what I've done my entire career. And so for me, the Idea Inc. was really an opportunity to give people like you the wings to fly. Mm-hmm. And I just enjoy the work. I always have. I think that there's a lot of strategy that needs to go in to how something functions properly, like a business. Whether it's the best people to hire, when to hire, how to budget, how to navigate all of those things. And I really enjoy doing it and been doing so for 10 years. With
Awesome. Well, congrats on the 10 years. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm just going to acknowledge a couple of people that's live with us. So if you're watching live with us, we're on Facebook at Niki Lopez Creative. We're also on Outclick Magazine. We're on YouTube and Periscope. So we have a couple people in the audience. We have Natalie saying hello to all. We have David saying hello. Cynthia Hayes saying hello. Thank you for being here. G, greetings. Kathleen Dean, thank you all for being here. And Andrew, he's one of our regulars and an artist. I'm so appreciative of you being here. So thank you all. Yeah, I love the idea, the Idea Inc. It's just a great name. And I think it's a great point in terms of like, sometimes people have all these ideas and they don't know what to do with it. And you come in and kind of just, take that idea and tell them, what's best for their audience, for what they're doing, and kind of structure. Because I know for me as a creative, if you sit me down at a spreadsheet, I wanted to go to sleep, but these things are needed. I think back in 2018, I was, able to work with you for What's Your Elephant. It was the 10th year anniversary of my annual show, but also What's Your Elephant project that I do. And it was just the first time when you're like, okay, who are your volunteers? There's A and B. And I was like, oh, I never even thought about two different groups of volunteers. But a lot of things you did just really helped to organize that event, and probably was the most smoothest running event that I've had in all that time. So I really appreciate the feedback and all the stuff that you do. We said, Dave, I love the service, allowing creatives to be just that. Help me. Absolutely. And so I love your mission, because my mission is to cause and support positive systematic change that happen for business, organizations, and communities through advocacy, government affairs, and community engagement. How do you explain that to people like who may not understand some of these pieces, or how do you do that? And what's the practice for you in doing that type of work in the community?
So usually people come to our front door, if you will, virtually, and have a specific problem. People don't usually show up to any business or community group and say, "Oh, I really, need XYZ services." There's some problem that's going on that's causing them to need what you offer, and that can be creative. That could be more literal, like healthcare services versus an artist like yourself. But you're always, as a leader in the community yourself, somewhere you're solving a problem. You're telling a story that helps to connect the dots with people. And what happens is that the work behind the scenes is not running properly. So, for example, you mentioned your event, What's My Elephant? When someone is running an event like that, there's a lot of work, as you know, on the back end that must be done in order for your work to be featured in a way that actually magnifies it so that you can do it again next quarter or the following year. If you don't have someone that is doing the marketing strategy for you, contacting press, managing the volunteers, managing expectations of your vendors, the sponsors, et cetera, people have a tendency to assume that you're unprofessional and not prepared for getting yourself to the next level. And so when you quote one of the things that I share when I talk about the work we're doing, it really is about managing the back end of an operation or an event or a nonprofit organization so that you can shine. So that you don't necessarily have to think about all of the details that go into how to operationalize a business, because it can be very nerve-wracking, in particular when you're a creative. I'll speak to your audience because I think there's a lot of creatives on your show. When you're a creative, the work of the business sucks all of the life out of being creative.
Yeah.
And no, you didn't sign up to think about spreadsheets, to your point, or who is this person going to show up? And are they show up on time? And you're just trying to do the work of an artist. And it can be super frustrating. And so when you have somebody on your team, whether it's the Idea Inc. team or a friend or colleague or whatever it is, you want somebody that can be able to really give you a sense of confidence so that you can be the artist that you were meant to be.
What are some challenges that come up for you, like working with creatives or working with someone that has an idea, they have a mission, they have a vision, but they don't have that back end? What are some of the challenges that come up or that people may not be aware of?
That's a good question. I think I'll answer that in two ways. Some of the challenges that come up for us as the team is that a lot of people think that their business should run one way. And in reality, it needs to run pretty close to the template and the structure that we've created. It's not one size fits all, but most of the time, you really have to think about what components of a business make it successful. Good operations, a committed artist in your case, because a lot of people think they're an artist, but don't have the discipline to continue the work in order to make it happen. And I've worked with a lot of artists over the years, and that's the common denominator. They are very good at what they do, but if they're not disciplined, they tend to teeter off. And that's not just artists. People who want to impact the world in some way, they have all these great ideas and they want to make such a big impact, but they don't have the discipline or commitment or discernment to be able to keep the train moving. And a company like ours helps to sort of make sure that you're on the straight and narrow so that all of the things that need to be, like a marketing plan, like strategy, like a business plan, like operationalizing it so things run smoothly to the point you're making about your event, that's happening because someone on your team must be the person that's the structure, the chief operating officer, if you will, of your team.
Awesome. What are some things that people should know before they contact you?
It depends. If you are a person with just an idea and have never had a business, then you don't need to know anything. Just call us up and let's have a chat, grab coffee. It doesn't have to be that serious. If you really want to do something with your business, whether it's a startup or you've been at it for a couple of years, usually 3 to 5, what you want to come to the table with is your business plan if you don't already have it, or prepared to have one written for you. Because we don't work without a strategy, plan, and timeline. Everything we do has to have structure. You can do your thing, but in order to make it work on the back end, we need to do ours. And so we ask that of the clients we work with. And lastly, you want to be really open-minded. That seems sort of, I don't know, simple, but a lot of times people think they know, right? I had a Facebook Live, I don't know what day it is, yesterday, Monday. And I referenced one of a potential client I was talking about, where she has all the network and the tools and the skill set to launch a really successful business for a particular niche. And you could tell that she was hedging. She didn't want to make the phone calls to call the people that she knew she needed to call in order to get into, in this case, schools down in Miami. And that happens more than anything else with small businesses. They have all of the preparation, they plan to death, they have analysis paralysis, they know all of the things they're meant to do, but when it's time for the rubber to meet the road, they actually have to make the phone calls and walk out onto the skinny branches. They sort of get scared and don't really do what it takes in order to make the necessary phone calls to get the partners or clients that they want to have on board. So I would say that's the biggest thing, is you need to be prepared to get a little uncomfortable so that you can be in a place with your business that you want to be.
Absolutely. And we have a couple of comments. We have Natalie, right brain and left brain coming together. Love this. Jen Clay is also an artist. Yes, throw out that ego. G, what inspired you to start this type of business?
That's a good question. It was actually out of necessity. From New York originally. And I was during the 2008 downturn, I was living in Brooklyn and was working on Wall Street doing marketing and management. And I got laid off and decided I would always have a business. This would always be the work that I was going to do. And I needed money. I was painting fences and doing whatever I needed to do to get by so I can pay my rent and keep the lights on. And a family friend said, "Oh, we need a business plan." Her and her husband were starting a business and needed somebody to operationalize their business. And I'm very good at that work and have been for a long time. And I said, "Well, I need the cash. I'd love to help you, you know." And a lot of people have these beautiful stories that talk about why they started their business. Mine wasn't particularly beautiful. I needed to do it. And I knew that I always wanted to do this work, and I had been doing this work. I've never had a job that I didn't love, and I'm very grateful for that. But this particular business was launched because I needed to make money, and it was something that sort of fell in my lap.
Absolutely. And we have Elvita Tia Joanne asking, what about independent marketing entrepreneurs?
What about them?
I guess, do you work with them, or is it, because you work with more than creatives, you work with a lot of different.
Oh yeah, actually, to be honest, creatives aren't the easiest clients to work with. So that's probably the smallest population. We work with consultants in marketing and management, to answer her question. One of our clients right now is running for office. We work with nonprofit organizations. We've worked with the gamut, social entrepreneurs, community groups. We worked with everybody that wants to make an impact. The common denominator is that they have a mission that is not just about one bottom line, which is dollars. It's the triple bottom line: purpose, profits, and people. And so we work with people that understand that those three elements are important to build a strong, successful business.
Absolutely. And I know you work with a lot of different things in the community outside of the Idea Inc., because I know I've seen you with the Broward Cultural Division on the grants. What are some other things that you are involved with within the community?
So I'll start with BCC, since you brought it up. Broward Cultural Division is an incredible department and agency that I was appointed to because I've always believed and had a passion for art. Like I said, I was born in New York, and my father would take me to galleries growing up and was very connected to art and artists, even though I am not creative in that way at all. But I always believed and have experienced and done work where art could tell a story and have really difficult conversations about everything from systemic racism to abuse of any kind in a way that no other medium can tell. Think about how we feel when we listen to music, when we see art like yours. It made such an impact, and I really wanted to sort of be a part of that conversation, and was really good. I have a business lens, and I thought maybe it would be cool to show that piece of the work that I do, in particular with the Broward County Cultural Division. And I just am very passionate about it. It's an incredible agency with brilliant minds, and I wish they were highlighted more. I wish more people knew about it, because I don't know that people really realize. I don't know that people realize what an impact culture has. I think we sort of say that, but they don't know what culture has, the impact it has on communities like ours. But I've been a part of a lot of community groups, New Leaders Council, which is a progressive leaning leadership organization. I was the chapter director for many years. I work for and do a lot of work with AIDS Healthcare Foundation. We do everything that has to do with advocating for those that are living with or may live with AIDS and HIV, an incredible organization that's been around for over 30 years. And I do a lot of work around housing and homelessness initiatives with them as well. So yeah, I obviously believe in community, in particular local community. I think that we tend to think global, and I think that that's wonderful. I understand why we do it. But local is really where it's at. People like you that's been in the community, that is doing the work that makes it sort of trite, but you make the world a better place simply because you exist. And I don't say that lightly. And I think that people overlook the local impactors, those that are actually influencing culture in real dynamic ways. And that's the people that inspire me to continue the work that I do.
Awesome. Thank you. And you mentioned a little bit about AHF. For those who may not know, what type of organization and what is your connection to AHF?
So I do legislative affairs and community engagement for the organization. I'm a little bit biased because obviously I work for them and with them and have been for a number of years. But I think, AHF is one of these organizations that's really hell-bent on advocating for people that are unheard. And one of the focus points happens to be HIV and AIDS. They've been around since the late 80s. Because when the epidemic was killing people by the hundreds daily, it needed to be an organization that was treating people with the level of grace and love that they deserved, regardless of what their status was. And that organization has transcended over a period of time the evolution of medicine and the evolution of the disease. And so my work is really about reaching into communities, specifically communities of color, and so that we can tell a story about how do we rebuild trust with organizations where communities like Black folks, Hispanic, older folks don't typically trust healthcare organizations like this one. And so sometimes it's an uphill battle, to be honest with you. A lot of people sort of are like, is AIDS still a thing? Are people still dying from AIDS? Why do I care? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, Miami-Dade is number 1 in the country for new cases of AIDS. Broward is number 2. Those are real numbers. People are still contracting. We get hundreds of people visiting one of our wellness centers daily. COVID, obviously. And I share that because I think that people really need to know that there are a lot of wonderful agencies out there. AHF is the one that I represent and have, my heart is with them. But Broward House is another incredible organization that does amazing work. The Pride Center is another organization. There are beautiful, incredible ASOs out there that I think people need to be aware of. Dr. Raquel Lopes is the executive director for World AIDS Museum. She's a beautiful spirit. I mean, these are people that are doing the work every day to continue to explain and educate people on why talking about AIDS and HIV continues to be so important.
Absolutely. We have a question here from G. She said, how do you balance running your business and helping others run their business and projects?
That's a good question. From just a logistical perspective, I bring people on to support different projects on an as needed basis. 1 and 2, Rebecca Bybee is my right-hand person. She's, just the most amazing person. She's kind, but I don't know if anyone knows anyone from the Midwest. She's from the Midwest, so sort of salt of the earth, like nose to the ground, like work, work, work. You can always count on her. And she makes it possible for us to manage everything so well in a lot of ways. I'm also very organized. Mm-hmm. I think we all come out of our childhood with strengths and weaknesses that come from things that are good and bad. And I always share this. I think it's important for people to know background. My parents had me when they were really young. And so we learned at a very young age, my brother and I, that if you want to eat, you need to work. We had everything we wanted and needed. We had a great family, but when it's time to work, you need to work. So when I was 14 and 15, I learned how to work. I know what it is to be organized, how to get things done, making sure people can count on you, always be honest, always be about your business, be a woman of your word. Those are things that I don't know that we talk about a lot in this time, but I think when you and I were young, that's what it was about. All you have is what people say to you. And I stick by that. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have, and big up for AHF and Pride Center. And
Pride Center, a great organization, for real.
Yes, yes. And if you're following on Facebook on Niki Lopez Creative, we have Natalie who helps me remotely, and she's putting in the links for the Idea Inc. So you could get to their website, get to their Facebook, get to their Instagram, and connect with them and get more information about them. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. What are some of the things you do? Do you have any self-care practice or anything that you do to kind of refill your cup? Because I can imagine with all the work that you do that you might have that.
To be honest, it's just been in the last 2 years that I have made a practice of self-care. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people in particular, because I think that we live in a culture that even self-care, we beat ourselves up if we're not self-caring, which is sort of so for me, when I can, I probably meditate about 10 to 15 minutes, 4 or 5 times a week. And I've been doing that a lot more lately. I'm an avid journaler. I think it's really important to write, not just type or be on your phone, but usually really put pen to paper. It helps me. I'm a very spiritual person, so I pray to God if I'm not pissed off at the universe. I love the outdoors. I love walking and going for a good run. Being around people that really feed me and I feed them is really self-care for me. Being around girlfriends and like vibing, I love that. I think my husband Gil. He's a really easy person to be around. We have a really good time together. I don't like to put self-care outside of myself. But those two things, friends and Gil, they do fill me up sometimes. So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah. And have there been any impact to either you or your business or the communities you serve? Like, because we're in a global pandemic, I know everyone has different opinions about it. But in terms of like, has there been any impact or have you had to do any adjustments during this time?
So the Idea Inc. has not had to. We are a virtual company. And one of the things I'll actually share with somebody, one of the benefits of having low overhead with a service-based company, whether it's full-time and like a lot on like I have, or even if it's a side hustle or something you're doing, the reason I think it's good to have something on the side is because when things like this happen, you can pull from a trade or whatever it is so that you can have cash coming in. So I'll say that. So it hasn't affected us, but like one of our clients is Community-Based Connections, beautiful nonprofit. Their office is off of Sistrunk in Fort Lauderdale, and led by Mike Obel, who is one of the most genuine, beautiful people I've ever met. Haitian brother who grew up in Deerfield, I think. And the people that he serves have really been impacted by COVID. And so they're a client and we help them raise dollars so that the organization can distribute to families that are hard to reach and in need. Maybe they lost their job or, hours got cut back or whatever the case may be, furloughed. And so I think a lot of people, I was just talking to someone about this recently, that we don't realize what a trickle down effect or domino effect, I think is a better way to put it, that this has had both health-wise, but also economically on people's lives. So it has not been, has had a negative effect on me or the business, but it certainly affected folks around me, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's great that you haven't been impacted, but also you're able to help, some people in the community that have been. So that's a great thing. We have Amara Candy. She says, love me some Ebonni Chrispin.
It's actually a man, and he works for AHF. He's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. Based out of Atlanta and is the National Director of Communications for AIDS Healthcare.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And then we have Jen Clay. Do you only work with organizations in Broward?
Nope. We have clients across the map. We work with clients in Jersey, Philly. I just talked to a client that if it pans out in California, over the course of the 10 years, we work with folks from all over the country and in some cases, South America and Europe.
Okay, that's awesome. So do you have any, what are some of the long-term goals for Idea Inc.? Like, what is something that you might be working towards for the future that you're able to share?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I guess to take a step back, I think long-term goals for me is to think about what's next in my life. I'm in my late 30s. And I think at this point, I really want to find my version of work-life balance. I've been only working with organizations that I love for a very long time, including AIDS Healthcare, my own company, representing other organizations I really feel passionate about, like community-based connections. And I think for me, one of the things that's important moving forward is to ensure that I continue to represent organizations that we can support in a really great way, who are making the kind of impact that addresses issues that matter to me, like systemic racism and what it looks like to unravel that in a society that is entrenched in it. Issues that deal with inequality for the LGBTQ community, in particular teens. I feel passionate about that and what it means to have a bigger dialogue about being who you are. I'd like to incorporate in my own life, not necessarily Idea Inc., but sort of spirituality into the conversation around, I think spirituality sometimes gets a bad rap. And I think people are more spiritual than they realize. We may not use that word, but I think when we need quiet time, when we have a good laugh, when we dance for no reason, that there's something in that that's really powerful. And I'd like to incorporate that into the work somehow. I think in terms of projects, I really want to start helping small businesses more again. I've been working with large organizations for a number of years. And I'd like to do like a workshop or two in the coming years that really help people build out their business plans. It's very, very important to have a business plan, no matter what kind of industry you're in.
Awesome. Thank you. We have Amara saying she's such a hard worker. And we have two questions. I know we're wrapping up soon, but we got some questions. So if you're able to, do you mind if we go a little over?
Sure, I have 3 minutes, yeah.
So we have, where is this question here? I just saw it. Matthew says, how do you work on partnering with orgs and companies?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think he's saying, how do we find partnerships for organizations and companies? Is that what you're interpreting it to mean?
Yeah. How do you work on partnering with? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I guess, Matthew, if you're able to kind of clarify, I don't know if you meant like Idea Inc. or how do people partner with orgs and companies? Okay, we'll give it a couple minutes and come back to this. So we have Jen Clay asking, can a client just get on your nerves? Like, is there a list of things not to do?
That's a good question. Of course, clients get on everybody's nerves. Colleagues, bosses, people that work for you and with you. I take everything with a grain of salt for the most part. My mom taught me when I was a little girl that 99% of the things that people do to you have nothing to do with you. So when you can, don't take it personally. And so that just sticks with me. Obviously, sometimes it hurts. You don't want to get into it with a client. But I don't take it personally. And also, I always recommend people, no matter what it is, always set clear boundaries at the beginning of your relationship with a client. So if you are commissioning something for someone, for example, be clear about, how long it's going to take and, set far off parameters. Don't give them room to call you every hour on the hour. Tell them how often you're going to respond to emails or text messages. Set very clear parameters, not just with clients, but with anybody you're working with. And do so. My suggestion is always do so on the front end. Don't be scared to be direct if someone has crossed a boundary that you've set between the two of you, and also give people room to set boundaries with you. No one's perfect. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes you have to be able to say, "Hey, listen, this didn't work for me," and also be prepared that people may give that back to you, because sometimes we dish out a lot of crazy stuff as well, and people may tell you, that didn't work for me. So those are the 2 tips I'd give.
Okay. Thank you. And we have, Imara says, what are some fundamentals you want to employ to create more work-life balance?
I'm not great at this, but I'm getting a little bit better. Is I have a cutoff time with electronics, like my laptop, my phone. Like I really just need to put the phone down and away. I think one thing that was helpful, because I can be sort of restless at night. I think meditating at night, even for 1 or 2 minutes, or journaling or reading a book. I love physical books, not just on iPod or whatever, iPad, sorry, old. Something that sort of is like decompresses you. That's something that I like to do. I think sometimes people joke that if their partner would let them quit their job and they can just lay up in the house, they would do it, temporarily. I like to work, so I'll never not work. I enjoy doing the work. I love being in the community. But I think that I've learned over the years that there needs to be a stopping point. 6, 7 o'clock, start wrapping it up. I'm doing this for you because I absolutely adore you and I think you're incredible.
Thank you.
Usually I've gotten better about not doing things this late. Where in the past I would be out all hours of the night helping whoever needed me to do something.
Well, I appreciate that so much.
Oh no, it's not.
Amazing boundaries. Some stats. I don't know where it's from. So Matt is saying, how does a business reach out to you to be able to work together? For a client together with
2 questions. So thank you. One, if you'd like to set up a time to chat, you can email. And I don't know if you want to post this, Niki, but you can add Rebecca's email address to the post and email her, and we can set up a time to chat. Usually in non-COVID times, we can grab coffee, but we're not doing that right now. So Zoom it is. And sort of chat, vibe, and decide whether we're a good match. We're not always a good match. And I know a ton of people. And what I always commit to everyone that I speak to is I'll find someone that you are a good match with. What I look for in clients is, one, does Rebecca like them? Because she does a lot of the managing of it and she needs to sort of vibe. Are they a mission-driven organization, community group, or creator in some way? We don't work with anybody that isn't impacting the community. So that's really what our boundaries are. And we hope that we click with you. We can usually tell right at the beginning. As you can tell, I'm very clear in my communication. And so I do that at the beginning so they know whether they're a good fit for me and vice versa. So yeah, that's sort of the criteria, if you will.
Yeah, I know when we worked together the first day, you're like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. This is how long I'm going to do it. And you could send me something afterwards. I was like, oh okay.
Yes, very clear. No confusion.
Yeah, there's no misunderstanding right there. So that's awesome.
No.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I always throw out this trick question, not trick, a different question. If you had access to a time machine, where would you go, the past or the future?
I'd go to the past. I'd go to the past. Yeah, I would probably tell my 25-year-old self, it's a long time ago, that's, I don't know if you can curse on here, but like, don't mess with boys. That's not really a cool thing.
Yeah.
Or at least don't stop pretending that they're the one, whatever
Yeah.
that means. And I'd also tell her, it's all going to work out. Don't worry about it. Calm down, breathe. I just think that for me that was one of the things that I would definitely do myself then. Yeah.
That's awesome. What's something that people may not know about you unless they know you?
I think the people that's closest to me would say that I was very funny, witty. I'm very silly. And if you don't know me and you only know me in these settings, I think I come across, if you're from New York, then this is very normal. But I'm sort of, can be a hard ass and all of that. And I think some people, I'm very professional and hyper productive and all of that in my work environment. But I'm just hanging with friends, I'm super chill and like to have a good time and laugh and spill the tea and all that, So I think that was probably what people would be surprised by.
Awesome. Well, I know we're wrapping up. It was so great to have you on the circle, sharing the work. I love the work that you do. I love the fact that, there's so many different business models. But for, I guess I'm a little biased in terms of, I love things that are impacting change, no matter how small, how big. I think, any little ripple effect goes into the universe and can create change on larger scales. So I'm definitely an advocate for impacting change. And there's not a lot of people who really care. Like, you do the work and you really care about the work that you're doing. So I think it's amazing work. We have a couple of, Jen Clay, waiting on Ebony's weekend workshop. Like, get your shit retreat.
It's coming, Jen. It's coming.
Yes. So we're wrapping up. If you are watching this live, thank you so much for joining us and being here tonight. Please tag people, share people. There's someone that you know that wants to get inspired and motivated. They got that idea and they need the idea ink. So please definitely share it. And I don't know, do you have any final words?
I just have to I think everyone who's on this knows, but I just think you're so amazing, Niki. You're just such a beautiful light in the world. And I've said this to you a million times. I just think you're such a beautiful person and so happy and blessed to know you. And just think it's incredible that you continue to do the work you do to impact people. So big up to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I look forward to working with you again. It's always a pleasure. And for those who's going to watch this on the replay, thank you for watching. And please remember to share, tag, like, comment. We'll both have access to the video. So if there's any questions that we may have missed, we could always come back and answer those for you. And I will see you all next week, Tuesday. Sayonara.